And we're live. Welcome to the Lakers Outsiders podcast. We are no longer the playoffs outsiders as the playoffs ended yesterday. Congratulations to the Golden State Warriors on their win. I don't care. That's just one more title that the Lakers have to make up for in the Pacific Division. I'm joined tonight by Gary, who is usually here, our resident ping pong ball. We have Jacob Rude, who edits. He got some great gigs. He edits the Wabash Plain Dealer and the Huntington Herald Press. He's their sports editor. He's also formerly my editor over at the Lake Show Life. How you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing pretty well. The Reds just hit a walk-off grand slam, so it's a pretty good start to the night.
There you go. See, it's the karma for hopping on our podcast. Jacob also, helped us. He's a guest columnist for our LakersOutsiders.com. Jacob, do you want to talk about the experience of writing your article for us and what you were trying to get across?
The article, I can't even remember what article I wrote. It was a while ago.
I believe it was why the Lakers should trade up to draft.
For Karl Towns, yeah. At the time, I may have been a little swooning over his workout tape, but nonetheless, I just think that there's a maybe not significant gap, but there's a noticeable gap between Karl Towns and Jahlil Okafor, especially in terms of Karl Towns' ceiling, which is a little higher than Okafor's, mixed in with, especially now that we've had a fair amount of European guys withdraw from the draft, the talent at 27 and 34 isn't necessarily great. So I think, especially now, if trading the second in either the 27th or the 34th or both, I think it'd be worth it to move up to get Towns to just ensure that we would get him.
It makes sense. I mean, there's something to that claim. We're going to be covering the draft tonight, so helping us in our final spot here is Justin Russo of Clips Nation. Justin, you ate a crap ton of chicken McNuggets to get over the Lance Stevenson news. I think it's a terrible move. I imagine you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I talked about it at length yesterday on my podcast. I wrote an article about it yesterday, or the night that it happened. It came out yesterday. But as I said on the podcast, I'll just shorten it. I get there's two sides to this trade. There's the financial side, which makes sense. Like, he's signed to basically just one more year, and if it doesn't work, you can get rid of him and have like $5-6 million more in the offseason. And then the cap jumps up, so it's even better. But on the other side, like I said, it's like basketball-wise, he doesn't really make sense unless like you get a less impactful Draymond Green out of him. It doesn't work, and I don't think that's happening. Like, he would have to revert all the way back to 2 years ago, and
right.
His psyche's in a fragile state right now. And the only upside I think to this move is, well, there's two upsides. One, he can play better. He was so bad. Like, he might have been the worst player in basketball last year, and so like he can get better. He's still younger, so he can still get better. And the other upside, I guess, is maybe this means, because they traded Hawes, maybe this means DeAndre told him he for sure is coming back. Like, because Hawes in a way was their safety net at center. So now that he's gone, maybe that means DeAndre really told him he's coming back. So I don't know.
I just think, the whole risking, trading a role player at a position where you guys were insanely thin on a risk move here for Lance Stevenson. If that doesn't work out, well, now you wasted another year of Chris Paul's prime where he doesn't have many of those left over. So this better freaking work out.
Yeah, that was my point last night, too, was when I was talking about it, it was like, this isn't just like, oh, if it doesn't work out, then okay, no, it's like every year matters. Like, Chris Paul's going to be 30 or is 30 years old. Like, that's not a year you can waste on a gamble. And in the article I wrote, I said, acquiring Lance Stevenson is like playing Russian roulette with a loaded Uzi in the hopes that it just keeps jamming over and over.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's like, good luck. You know.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he hit on roughly the same percentage as an Uzi.
Yeah, it's true. As I put in my article, there was 186 players last year that played 1,500 minutes or more. He was dead last in effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage. But the even worse thing about that was, out of all the players in NBA history to take at least 100 threes in a season, what he shot last year, which was 17.1%, was the worst in history. So it's like, come on, man. Do I think he's 70% bad from three? No, but I don't know if he's 35 like he was 2 years ago.
All right. Well, that's enough about the Clippers.
Yeah.
I know those of you who are listening right now are hoping to listen to a mock draft. That's what we promise everybody. We are going to go through the draft tonight. The Lakers, again, somehow, pray be to God, that they kept their pick, and not only kept it, but moved up. They moved up to number 2, and we've heard roughly, infinite names that the Lakers are interested in. One day it's Towns, one day it's Okafor, one day it's Russell, Moutier, all these guys. So in the recent name has been Kristaps Porzingis. So we're going to talk about that, and then also draft for the entire first round. The order of the draft tonight, we're going to have Justin is going to be going first. You guys narrowly missed a great pun on my part. You missed it by that much. I won't repeat it because I don't like recycling jokes. Although it was a zinger. I can't lie.
Oh my God.
I'm not encouraging.
All right, and then drafting. We are drafting for the Lakers in the number 2 spot. No pressure tonight for Gary. Gary, are you up for the task?
I might just trade it for a 2018 first rounder, something like that.
Team Tank lives on. And then going third tonight will be Jacob. All right. So without further ado, we are about to get going. Harrison, if you're ready, Harrison will be handling the tweets. He's going to be our resident Adrian Wojnarowski to tweet out all the impending draft picks and or trades that might take place. That'd be really fun if you guys try to negotiate on air. That'd be great. But yeah, we're gonna get us started, Justin, with the first overall pick. 8 days to go in the draft. Who's going number 1 in Minnesota?
Well, there's been the rumors about how Flip Saunders has been really high on Jahlil Okafor, but I think he's crazy. So I'm not that crazy sometimes, I guess, but I'm gonna go Carl Anthony Towns. I think he's the best player in the draft. I don't think it's as big of a gap as it was about a month ago in my mind, but I still think he's the best player in the draft. I think he makes the most sense for Minnesota, so I'll go with him. I love him.
How does he compare, would you say, to previous prospects? In my opinion, he's the most exciting prospect since Anthony Davis.
Yeah, throughout the year when I was watching Kentucky play, I kept saying, so-and-so on their teams, reminds me of this guy. I kept saying Devin Booker reminds me of Klay Thompson. Willie Cauley-Stein reminds me a little bit of Joakim Noah. But it's I looked at Karl Towns, I said he's a less refined, hyped-up Anthony Davis. But if I had to put a player comp on him, I'd actually say probably a LaMarcus Aldridge with better defense.
Yeah.
Right.
Is how I would look at him.
That's just crazy to me. His ceiling is so freaking high. I mean,
yeah.
There are cathedrals in Rome with lower ceilings than Carl Anthony Towns.
Well, and he doesn't really have any glaring weaknesses. There's stuff he can improve and refine, but even everybody else in the draft has a pretty big weakness. With Okafor, it's his defense or whatever, his free throw shooting. But with Towns, it's what really stands out is something that he absolutely has to work on.
Yeah. He's as close to the total package of a big man since Anthony Davis, basically.
Yeah.
The only thing he doesn't have is Anthony Davis's raw handling ability, but he showed pretty good handles in his workout video, which it's a workout video, but you never know,
Yeah.
So I just like him.
Yeah, I'm honestly on board with Jacob's article about why the Lakers should move up and get him. But at this point, I don't know what kind of leverage they have, given the fact that Minnesota really wants Karl Anthony Towns. It makes it tougher. Gary, are you ready for the number 2 pick?
I am, since the decision is pretty much made for me. So the Lakers with the second pick are going to take Jahlil Okafor.
Man.
And that's a no-brainer to me. I mean, I love D'Angelo Russell, and I really like Moutier, actually. He's really kind of grown on me as of late. But just Okafor, I love the fact that he's slimmed down, like he's in the best shape of his life. And I think that'll help him defensively. I think that's going to help his foot speed, like with pick and roll defense and things like that. And he's still got some tools to be a good defensive center. He's got a 7'5" wingspan. He's got legitimate size, and offensively he's great on the block. Like, I think he's going to have probably like a top 3 or top 5 post game in the league from day one. Like, it's that good. Well, the league isn't that good with low post scoring, but he's like, Towns is great, but I mean, Okafor's not far behind him.
I remember when the season started, Okafor was the guy I had my eye on from all the way through the season, and I can't think of any decent reason to head into any season in college, whether you're in the NFL or in the NBA, where we really pay attention to prospects. There's no benefit to being the number 1 guy heading in, because you're just going to get ripped to pieces by all the bloggers, by all the Twitter scouts and all that. And I think that happened a lot with Okafor.
Well, I liken him and Towns to Parker and Wiggins from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Parker came in with like this guy's ready to go now, and Wiggins isn't as ready, but people are going to fall in love with him. And I see the same thing happen again, where it's like with Towns, his upside is so ridiculous, and I don't buy into the whole the whole thing with Wiggins was he can't play offensively right now, which I thought was a little bull, and he proved it was. And I think Towns is the same way. Is like people wondering what's wrong with him. Like, can he play right now? It's like, I think he can. And with Okafor, you know what you're getting. I just don't think people like the thing with the draft that I've learned over the years is I don't think people like knowing what they're getting right off the bat. Like, I think they want guys to just move into like a stratosphere with the stars, and they don't want a guy who you know what you're getting right away.
Well,
right.
It's like if you're a safe pick, like that docks your draft stock. It's weird. Like, everybody wants to be like the smartest guy in the draft and reach for somebody that turns out to be really good when they just overlook like the obvious, like taking Okafor in the top 2.
Yeah.
Right. I think one other thing to throw out there that I saw somebody tweeted today is a lot of people are talking, Okafor, his defense obviously is a big question, but it seems like not a lot of people realize he's 19. Like, he's 5-6 years away from probably his prime. There's a lot of improvement that could happen between now and then. So, and kind of on that, since the season has ended, I think people almost forget how dominant Okafor was in the post. And just like Gary said, I mean, he's easily top 5 post players from day one coming in. And, I mean, pairing him with Julius Randle is going to be really, really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, that summer league's going to be fire. I can't wait for that. By the way,
go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, by the way, for anybody interested in going to summer league and meeting us schmucks, Gary, Harrison, and I will definitely be there. Matt is trying desperately to go, and Ryan is also trying to go. So I'm telling you guys, this Lakers Summer League team will be more exciting than the entire last season combined. And I don't think it's going to be close.
It's sad because that's true.
Yeah.
And you won't have to watch Wesley Johnson for 82 games.
And Byron Scott might not be coaching.
Okafor's postgame reminds me of Pau Gasol with the footwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he feels really Brook Lopez-y to me, which, because of his injuries, like, people kind of spit on Brook Lopez's name, but coming out of college, like, people were stoked about Brook Lopez.
Yeah. So,
So, all right, well, that's plenty of time. I like the pick. I'm excited. I'm going to go out and buy my Jahlil Okafor jersey. I'm going to make sure to put a J in front of it so people don't ask me if Emeka Okafor might be on the Lakers. Jacob, you have the number 3 pick, which will be for Philly. Where are you going to go here?
Well, obviously the kind of sexy name would be Porzingis, but I don't think that he would fit very well with Philly, especially with Noel. I guess it kind of depends on how badly they think Embiid is injured, if his setback really is going to keep him out a full year, but I think they have enough forward depth. It just feels like they really need a point guard to kind of lead that team. So I have the Sixers taking D'Angelo Russell here. Like I said, it feels like they've needed a point guard to kind of lead since they've kind of went into this spiral of tanking. You kind of thought Michael Carter-Williams might have been that guy, but obviously that didn't pan out. I think D'Angelo Russell will be that guy. I don't think he'll be anything like the last guard that the Sixers drafted from Ohio State. I think he'll be much better. So, but yeah, I think that would be an exciting core with Russell and Noel, possibly Embiid. I think Philly might actually start winning some games.
Do you think Philly regrets trading KJ McDaniels? Because
No.
I feel like that'd be a lot of fun moving forward. That core there.
I think they're fine with it. I think, in a weird way, I think they knew what they had in him, and I think they sold it what they thought his value was. They got like a second rounder out of it, didn't they?
Yeah, now they have like 38 second rounders.
No, I know, but I mean,
Yeah.
to them, second rounders were gold just because it's non-guaranteed contracts and all that stuff. And McDaniels didn't even play for Houston, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I mean, Houston was a title contender. Like, how could you expect a rookie to just join a title contender
No.
mid-season and play?
I know, but they had injuries, and he still couldn't even get on the court. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand Corey Brewer and Josh Smith were veterans, so you got to play them, but he wasn't even getting minutes in blowouts.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Another thing with Philly too is they have Saric who's set to come over probably not next year but probably 2 seasons from now is what I've read. I mean,
Yeah,
who knows with that?
2016.
But it's like, I mean, if Embiid doesn't work out, then you bring him over and he's your power forward with Noel. So I mean, that's a nice little safety net for him.
Right. I mean, they're the Philadelphia 70 tankers. Like, take the guy who might take a year off.
And I don't think anyone could give them crap for taking Embiid either. Like, that was the guy they should have taken.
Yeah. I mean, 7-footers with foot problems is always kind of worrisome.
It's worrisome, but his talent level demanded it. I mean, he was going to be the top pick before that foot injury. So
Yeah, I was in the minority on that last year, but mainly just for the Lakers, just because I don't like big guys with foot injuries, and he's had back problems. Because I think the Lakers are a franchise that like they can't take a chance like that and be, if it doesn't work out, then they're bad for an extra few years.
yeah,
Because the fan base is so impatient. Like the Sixers, like everybody kind of knew what they were doing, so I think like that's why they could afford to do it.
by the
Plus, they
way,
have so many draft picks.
it's so great though. Speaking of so many draft picks, because next year they could have 4 first rounders.
Yeah,
That's so crazy.
that's nuts.
And at a certain point, I mean, they have all these second-round picks, all the first-round picks. I would imagine at a certain point they're going to have to start trading those for. You can't keep adding 5, 6 rookies to the team every year and expect to continue to compete. So I mean, they could be someone to look for some type of blockbuster deal at some point in the next couple of years.
And all the more reason too to take somebody like Russell who looks pretty NBA ready. I would say, like, those 3 guys are the most NBA ready top 3 that we've seen in a while. That all 3 guys that you could see immediately stepping on to an NBA roster and just being like, all right, I'm the guy here. Like, go ahead, I'm good to go here.
Yeah, I have
All right.
Russell third on my board, and I think he's the most fluid player in the draft. I think he's so, like on the court, it's smooth. Everything he does is so smooth.
I was gonna say his game is beautiful to watch. Like,
Yeah.
It really is.
And really, I know some people kind of disregarded it a little bit when they threw out the Steph Curry comparisons, but I can kind of see it. Obviously, he's nowhere near the shooter, but they both play the game, like you said, so smoothly, and it's so like aesthetically pleasing that I can see where that comparison would come from.
Yeah.
I kind of think the Harden comparison is a little closer to me. I mean, personally. I mean, it's a little easier comparison because they're both left-handed, but you know, they're both bigger guards, both, you know, willing and able passers, and I think he gets to the rim. He gets by people really easily. Like Curry, when he gets by somebody, or he never really goes completely by somebody, but when he does it, it's like, oh my God, that poor guy, and you know exactly how he got by them. Whereas, like, with Harden and with Russell, when I'm watching them, it's like all of a sudden he's by you, and you have no idea how the heck that just happened.
Yeah, I think Russell just has to shore up his defense a little bit on the ball and just be better around the rim.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy he keeps, like, he's always reminded me of is like a left-handed Brandon Roy.
I like that.
That's
I
just
like that.
That's the guy that always just comes to my mind. Like, it's just because I remember I used to love Brandon Roy, and it was so sad that his career got cut short. But I don't know. I just see so many similarities there.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I wasn't married and I didn't think my wife would kill me, I'd pour a little liquor out for Brandon Roy right now. But I'm on carpet, so I won't do that. All right, so drafting fourth here, we're going back to Justin. The New York Knickerbockers are about to.
You're not gonna pick?
No, I'm not picking. I'm just hosting. I'm guiding you guys through these picks.
Oh, damn, because I thought I was gonna pick for Orlando, so I was like, oh, happy to pick this one guy. Screw it, I'll pick him at 4 for the Knicks. I know the Knicks want somebody now. No.
You're gonna get booed either way.
Yeah, he's gonna get booed either way. And it's gonna be someone from overseas because he's gonna be from over. The guy I'm gonna pick is gonna be from overseas, so they'll hate him too, just because they'll think he's Danilo Gallinari all over again. I really want to pick Porzingis because I love Porzingis. I have him second on my board. I want to pick him, but I'm gonna go Moutier. I'll go Moutier. Yeah.
So
they need a point guard.
So when he walks out there amid booze, we're gonna call him Emmanuel Boutier, right?
Oh my God!
Go to sleep. Go to sleep right now.
This was much farther into the show than I thought we would get before we had a terrible pun.
But yeah, I'll go Moutier. I don't agree with the people who say he's a great athlete. I think he's a really good athlete. I don't think he's great. But he reminds me of less athletic John Wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty much the turning point in the draft. A lot will be decided about what the Knicks do. They're pretty much, I could see pretty much anybody in about the top 10 that would be possibilities for the Knicks here. And I mean, like you said, they'll probably boo them no matter what, but there's a whole lot of ways this could go, and I think this pick will determine a lot of how the draft falls out for the next probably 10 or 15 picks or so.
And I'll say this about Moutier, drafting a guy with that kind of talent, because heading into college, he was pretty near the number 1 recruit, right?
I think he was 3rd.
Yeah. He was way up there though, right?
He was right at the top. Yeah.
I think it was Okafor. I think it went Okafor, Turner, then Moutier.
And the fact that you're gonna draft a guy who, just because I think there were some issues with like his getting ready for college, that his high school was declared ineligible and his grades weren't somehow good enough, and then he was almost kind of forced into going to China, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it wasn't really by choice. He was pretty much forced to go overseas.
Right. So I think because of those outside circumstances, you have a guy that's going to be coming into the NBA with a pretty sizable chip on his shoulder, and I think that's going to go well. That's going to go over really well in New York, where you kind of have to have that kind of, that tough, thick skin to get over the things that are going to be lobbed at you by cheap shot artists like Frank Isola.
And I hope people don't just look at him and be like, oh, he played in the Chinese Basketball Association. That must have been really crappy. It's like, yeah, a lot of those players aren't really worth a while, but it's like he was still going head-to-head in a championship series against Stephon Marbury. Like, come on, man. Like, this is Stephon Marbury, who the Houston Rockets 2 years ago, I think it was, like, wanted to come back to the NBA. Like,
Right.
like, come on.
And I've read about that league that it's actually a really physical league too.
It
So
is.
I think that's gonna help him a lot. And I think that's why he kind of like he's added muscle like lately. Like he's added weight just in pure muscle. He's in really good shape and like I hate that seems to be the knock on him was like the level of competition. Like but these college players, they have so many games where they play some school that finishes, 12 and 28, or something, or 12 and 18, like they play a lot of games that are just really easy competition, and I just hate that he gets knocked for playing, over in China.
One of my favorite things from the CBA this year was Gian Leon was playing over in China, and no, it's funny to laugh at him because of like how little he did in the pros, but apparently over in China he was averaging like 25 a night. Like he was, I think it's Marbury who said that if E came over now, he'd be much better suited, like mentally and physically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's not like he was going up against, like some of those guys he was playing were better than college players.
Oh yeah.
So
easily.
yeah. So
And I would imagine kind of something that both of you said. I mean, the competition level, I'm sure Devin Booker and Karl Towns are playing worse teams that in some of those SEC games than what Moutier was playing in China. And there's a certain level of adjustment, I guess, that he won't have to make because he has played professionally. He knows kind of the play one night, fly out to your next game, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think there is. I know that a lot of people want to knock the CBA, but I think there is a certain benefit from him having played there before.
Well, because there was games that Towns and Okafor, like the teams that they were playing against, the tallest guy was like 6'7" or 6'8", so it's like those type of games that's a cakewalk for them.
Oh, like Hampton?
Yeah.
Like
and that never gets talked about because they played, in the States.
yeah, everyone just assumes the college guys are like the best of the best for their bracket. It's like, no, not really.
Yeah.
All right, so that I think again this top end of this draft is really effing good, and the Lakers picked a great year to tank. I'll say that. We're going 5th now for the Orlando Magic, and I believe this is Gary. This is your pick, right?
Yes.
All right, so Gary, who do you got going here to Orlando?
So I'm gonna take Justin's guy here, and we're gonna take the Euro. We're gonna take Kristaps Porzingis for Orlando, because I mean, everybody keeps saying like, oh, he's the next Darko Milicic, and that's such like the laziest comparison. And like he's really, really good. Like he's really skilled. Like I don't know if he'll ever be like a 5, because like to me he's kind of like Dirk in terms of like his body style, and he's not a physical type of player, but he's just so skilled for his size, and I mean he's such a enticing prospect, and Orlando needs a little more shooting too. With Peyton and Oladipo out there, and who knows what's going to happen with Tobias Harris. I mean they've got Aaron Gordon too. But with Vucevic and Porzingis, defensively you're not going to be great, in the paint or anything. But like offensively, that's a really good big man duo.
So what does that mean then for Tobias Harris?
I've heard a lot of chatter that they plan to keep him, but I've heard that if he gets like a near max deal, that they won't bring him back. So I don't know. Like they're the team I'm kind of watching the closest, besides the Lakers, obviously, because if they take a guy like Winslow, then I think that means that Harris is probably on his way out.
Well, even Porzingis then, right? Like, because Porzingis is bigger, so he could, he's more of a natural fit at power forward. But I mean, if you want to play him, if you want to try to play him and Aaron Gordon, kind of side by side, then there's no real room for Tobias Harris still.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have a log jam with that, anyways. But
yeah,
I just think Orlando's kind of where Philly is in like the asset acquisition business, which is let's just get everyone that we can as BPA and just go from there. Like it'll figure itself out, I guess, in a way. And they want hard workers. Like Peyton's a hard worker, Oladipo's a hard worker, Aaron Gordon's a hard worker. Porzingis, from everything that I've read and seen, extremely hard worker. So it's like they want these guys who are gonna at least compete and try to get better, and I think that's a big tipping point for them. Is they want guys that want to be there and want to like put everything into that team.
Yeah, that's why. Like, I was back and forth on Gordon last year because I thought he was going to be there on the board when the Lakers were up at 7. Was like, he was kind of a tweener or whatever, but I love the fact that the dude's just a flat out gym rat. Like, he lives in the gym, and like those are the types of guys that I'd always want on my team. Like, even if they have some red flags or whatever, you put trust in guys that are going to put in the effort to try and overcome it.
And to that point, Gary. I know I read an article today that Porzingis was most impressed about the Lakers. The thing he took away with his interview and his workout with the Lakers was that their facilities are open 24 hours a day. So he said that like on some late night where you just can't sleep, you could just walk on in and get your work done. And that to me, like that's what that's the kind of thing. I'm not one to parse interviews with kids, but if he says that naturally, that's a huge selling point for his ceiling as a prospect.
Yeah. And the one thing, there's two things here. I agree with Gary 100%. Comparing him to Darko is just lazy. That's just seeing a white guy from Eastern Europe and going, oh, that's Darko again. Like, or Nicholas Skidishvili. It's the same guy. Like, no. Everybody's different because I think, to sidetrack, I think Darko just went to the worst spot for himself. He went to a team that didn't really need him.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even its pick. Like, they got the pick from some trade that finally the protection ran out, and it was like, oh, well, let's just take a guy who can develop at a really slow pace because we're a title team.
Right.
And
I think that, and for Porzingis, like, not that they're the same player or anything, I think he has a much better chance of turning out like Pau Gasol than Darko Milicic. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I just think he's so good that
he's
Darko
gifted.
was never that skilled. Yeah.
Like Jacob, what would you put the odds on that if Orlando does take him, Chris Stapps changes his last name to Porlando?
0. Easily 0. That.
Just wondering.
That's not your best work tonight.
Oh, the second thing I wanted to mention is when you listen to him talk, he does not sound like a European.
Mm-hmm.
And that might, like in a weird way, that might actually help him get sold to a fan base even more.
More marketable that way.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't need a translator. He doesn't speak with, like, an accent that is a little bit tough to understand. He's straightforward. He can talk for himself. He can think for himself. He wants to work. That's a guy I think fan bases can just get behind, even at as high as number 2 for the Lakers. I know Lakers fans want Okafor if he's there or Towns, whichever one is there, but I don't think Porzingis is a guy that people can get mad about.
Oh, they'll get mad.
Oh, yeah.
I don't react.
They'll get mad.
But then they'll start parsing through the data.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can get mad as a Lakers fan this year because we kept the pick. So, I mean, that was the win. I mean, at this point, at least for me, it just feels like, the icing on the cake that we get to add a young talent to Clarkson and Randall. So, I mean, there's if they draft anybody in pretty much a top 10, I'm going to be fine with it because it's a young talent that you're adding to the team.
Well, the thing is, though, like, at this point, this is the first time in my lifetime, really, that you see a vast majority of Lakers fans paying attention to the draft. And if the Lakers don't take a name that the Lakers or that Lakers fans have been paying attention to kind of for a long time now, a la Jahlil Okafor, a la Karl Anthony Towns, if they're fortunate enough to have him fall to them, they're setting themselves up for, even if Porzingis, there's a great chance he's going to work out. But if they take a guy like Porzingis and it doesn't work out, like the Jim Bust headlines write themselves. Like that's how it's gonna go. And Kupchak will again, eschew the he'll avoid the blame, like Barry Sanders in his prime would avoid tacklers, but that's how that's gonna go.
Yeah.
Nice Barry Sanders reference.
That was actually pretty good. I'll give you that one. That was a hell of a lot better than the Portlandio thing.
Yes.
I would say that was a poor joke. All right, so we're gonna go next pick. We have the Sacramento Kings, and Gary, you went last, so I believe Jacob, you're up to pick for our Queens of the North. What do you got?
I've seen a lot of mock drafts sending Cauley Stein to Sacramento. I'm not crazy about that fit with DeMarcus Cousins. Especially, I mean, you'd be moving him, I guess, to power forward, one of those two. You'd be moving Rudy Gay to small forward. You'd be shifting a lot around. I'm not as sold on that. I think if the draft falls out this way, I personally would have them taking Justice Winslow. I think I'm looking at their depth chart. They have Omri Caspi as their starting small forward, so I don't think he's starting small forward caliber. No offense to him, but I think Winslow can come in. I think he'd fit right in pretty well with them. Him and Macklemore on the wings would be a great combo. And Winslow wouldn't be asked to do as much as he might with some other team, and that, I think, suits Winslow best because I think he's kind of your glue guy that can do a little bit of everything, fill in wherever you need. He can block shots. He can, hit a three. He can cut to the rim, and I think that would suit him best. He could go into Sacramento. He wouldn't be the number one guy. He's probably not even the number two guy. He might not even be the number three guy, but I think that he could be if he went to Sacramento there, I think it would be a great situation for him.
Yeah, I think offensively that would be ideal for Winslow, is to have him go to a team that he can feed off of somebody else offensively, with like Cousins attracting the attention. Because offensively, I don't think he's close to being like a go-to guy or anything like that. But if he can just be kind of a guy for now that spaces the floor, can hit threes and slash to the basket and things like that, like you said, that's like a great fit for what he needs to do right away offensively. And then defensively, you know what you're going to get from him. The guy plays really hard on defense. In the tournament, man, it seemed like he was contesting every shot, even if it was at the rim, like just rotating over. Guys, he's a tough physical wing, and his draft stock just skyrocketed with the NCAA tournament. So,
I like. So do you guys think, and Justin, I'll ask to you, with at the top of the guard spots, right? You have the point guard and the shooting guard, and you're seeing a lot more where the shooting guard takes over the ball handling, responsibilities, and I think that could kind of that same ambiguity that can reside within how spots on the floor are defined. I feel like you can do the same thing in the 3 and 4 spots nowadays because you have so many stretch fours. And somebody like Gay and Winslow can actually work together because they're both kind of dual stretch fours.
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I think that's just the way the league is going, is where now it's like a 1 in 4 outsets now more. Mm-hmm. And because they want to get guys who are able to break down off the penetration and kick it out more and find guys on the wings. I think Winslow can be the guy standing on the wing to shoot. And even his drive and kick game isn't bad, but I think they could play together. Do I think defensively if it could work? I don't know, just because I don't trust Rudy Gay's defense. But, it's nothing against Winslow. I love Justice Winslow. I thought he was the hardest working Duke player last year during the tournament. He and Tyus Jones were They were, I mean, because Okafor is always great, but he had a couple hiccups in the tournament, but those two were just motors the whole time.
Mhm.
And I think that's, goes back to the Orlando thing, picking guys that are going to just try and compete for all 48 minutes. And that's Justice Winslow. I think he can work with Rudy Gay. I think he can work in that system. I think he can even play small ball 4 at times if needed, just because he can space the floor and he's strong enough to defend.
And he played
Not against huge power forwards, obviously, like not against like the Blake Griffins and Pau Gasols of the world, but against smaller guys.
Or the Joel Okafors of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And he played a lot of small ball for at Duke, especially in the tournament. Obviously, against college guys, it's a little different, but Duke at their best had, especially in the tournament, had Winslow as a power forward to stretch the floor to open up space a lot of times for Okafor. So yeah, I could see that dynamic being similar for Cousins and Sacramento. And I could see, definitely him being especially if he can bulk up a little bit, being a small ball 4.
One of my favorites, because you mentioned Omri Caspi, this is one of my favorite things, because the only reason I remember Omri Caspi this year is because I think in one game against the Clippers he had like 18 rebounds. And I just looked it up, and I remember him being solid as a starter this year. I just looked it up. This is actually crazy. He averaged 14 points and 4.5 rebounds in 19 games as a starter in 30 minutes per game. But here's the crazy part. He shot 50% from 3.
Oh, my.
Like
he was quite the talent. When he was there in Cleveland, I remember he was one of the guys they considered untouchable.
Yeah, he could play. I mean, and he might be the small ball 4. Because you could play Winslow at the 2 if you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So you have options.
And I just like the fact that when he got angry on the court, I got to call him Honorary Caspi.
Oh my God.
That was
next pick.
This is getting like intervention status. This is terrible.
Anthony's gonna get to Vegas, and there's gonna be people on a couch waiting for him to sit down.
That's all this summer league trip is. It's just gonna be he's gonna walk into a hotel room, and it's gonna be Gary and Harrison and Ryan and Matt all just sitting there. This is an intervention.
You think you're going to see Towns and Okafor? I don't think so.
All right, so picking 7th are the Denver Nuggets, who just hired Mike Malone, ironically, from the Sacramento Kings, right? He was there last year and was fired for no real good reason. Who's up now? Is this Justin? You're up, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a little bit of a pick that I don't think they would make, but I would love to see them make. I'm gonna go with Mario Hezonja. I think he fits Denver there's this idea that Mike Malone only wants to run and gun, but he doesn't. Mike Malone's a structured guy. And I think, they were starting Randy Foye this year. Gary Harris, who I love, didn't really work out this year, but obviously he should improve from where he was. I just think they need a guy who can play the 2 and the 3, especially when they go smaller. And if more people knew him, I think he would go in the top 5.
Oh yeah.
I have a pretty decent joke. Should I make it or should I not make it? Should I make it?
Just
or
go.
If that's ever the question, the answer
Is
should be
it?
no.
Are you gonna call
should
Mario
not make it.
Arizona or something like that?
No,
just because it's mile high.
No. You ready?
What?
When you're trying to figure out who's guarding you, you can say, Mario, who's on you?
Oh my.
All right, I'm gonna leave now. I'll see you guys.
All right, I'll see you guys later. We got to pick 7. It was nice having everybody.
Oh my God.
Back to and actually talking about Hezonja and not horrible puns. I do agree that I think he is very talented. I've seen comparisons his shooting to that of Klay Thompson, which might be a bit of a stretch, but I mean he's going to be a lights-out shooter. And
yeah,
I think Denver needs just about anybody they can get at this point. So I think he'd be a great fit.
You know who he reminds me a little bit of, at least coming out for the draft? Do you guys remember when Marco Bellinelli came out?
Yes.
Sort of.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Bellinelli, but with better overall skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I remember when Bellinelli came out, he was this guy, oh my God, there's these teams that should want to take him higher, and he went to, Golden State, I think, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think Hazonia's right there, right outside the top 5, at least on my board.
And Bellinelli, like, we can laugh at, where all he's been or whatever, but he's carved out a pretty decent niche for himself as a 3-and-D guy.
Yeah, he's there.
If that's Hazonia's floor, like, you might be doing all right.
Yeah. And I think he could be so much more than that.
Yeah, like I'm saying that's his floor. I'm saying like that's basement expectations for the guy, and his his ceiling is a little higher obviously than that if that's his basement.
He's one of my favorite prospects in this entire draft. Like I love his game. Like everybody talks about his shooting, which is great. I mean, he has almost unlimited range. Like his range is ridiculous, and he has such a high release point on his jumper that it's going to be so hard for defenders to block it. But he's a good athlete too. Like he's really explosive, which is surprising because when you look at him, you don't really like when I look at him, I don't see like an explosive guy. But I mean, when he attacks the basket, he just explodes off the floor.
And plus, you don't think of Europeans as explosive.
Yeah, like you think of usually you think of them as like fundamentally sound, players like that. But like I mean, he had some dunks and some alley-oops and stuff that he just soaring through the air, and I mean it's just crazy. And he's pretty good size too, for a guy that can play the 2 or the 3 because he's 6'8". I think he's like 205 or something, but he's pretty strong though, considering he's only 205 pounds. So I think he's going to be able to, especially with the league the way it is, with all this small ball, he can play forward too. Like he can be a small ball forward.
He's no Sasha Vujacic, is what I'm saying though.
Oh my god.
Well, he doesn't have the locks like Sasha. He's the the headband.
Or the Maria Sharapovas.
Can I pour one out because he was an honorary Clipper last year?
That was fun.
I miss Sasha. Those are the good old days.
All right, we're gonna have to start speeding it up here. We're at pick 7, and we're kind of drooling along here. So, going number 8 are the Detroit Pistons, and that is Gary. Are you up again?
Yep.
All right, Gary, what do you got?
I was just say we can cut time by you not making terrible jokes, but that's something else.
I mean that's not where I'm willing to cut.
Okay, so for the Pistons, I actually hope Hazonia falls to them, but since he didn't here, I'm going to give him some more help on the wing, and I'm going to go with Stanley Johnson. Stanley's, his draft stock has kind of fallen a little bit throughout the year because there's moments where he disappeared, but he was a streaky shooter. I think he can improve it. He just needs to shoot the ball with some more arc. His shot's just really flat, but he's a good defender. I mean, he's like physically, he's almost like he's just a physical specimen. Like a kid that young with that size, he's really remarkable, and he's going to defend well. And if he can improve his shot, he's going to be a guy I think Stan Van Gundy would love because I think Monroe's going to be gone, so they're going to put just Drummond down low and then try and space the floor with 4 shooters. So.
And that makes a lot of sense too with them acquiring Ilyasova, right? Where you can kind of have that similar situation that that we're going to have in this mock draft as Sacramento does with Justice Winslow and Rudy Gay, where you have 2 wings that just do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at Stanley Johnson, just his body type, if someone told you there was a 6'7" small forward that weighed 242 pounds with 7% body fat, with like a 7-foot wingspan, you're like, oh, is that like LeBron when he was 18? Like
run our test. It was run our test.
Yeah, like physically, he's what you want, and he's a great defender. His offense is sketchy sometimes. Like as Gary said, he disappears at times. But it's hard for me to evaluate Arizona guys offensively.
Yeah.
Because it's just a tough system.
I mean, it's hard to evaluate Arizona guys, period, because they produced Ryan Kellepire.
Shots fired.
I'm glad you went that route because I was so close to doing it.
I like Stanley Johnson a lot, and I compared Stanley to Ron Artest. And look, anything that Eric Pincus agrees with me on, I'm sticking with.
That is a fair comparison, though, and they both have jumpers that probably are a work in progress, but physically I'd say that is a pretty fair comparison, and I think he'd fit really well with Detroit, kind of spacing the floor. He could be probably a power forward at times for Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta give a shout out to Harrison, who's running the Lakers Outsiders. The Lakers Outsiders account right now. Harrison, that's a solid tweet, buddy. That's awesome. And Stanley learned to build a fucking wall. Atta kid. All right, I'm gonna retweet that.
That's one of the greatest moments of the year.
Yeah, it really was.
Awesome.
It really
was just great. Because it was the first time I've ever heard a coach, not the expletive, but like first time I've ever heard a coach actually like just tell his guy, just don't even let them get anywhere near the rim.
I remember watching that game live on League Pass, and I kind of had it on. I was doing other stuff, and I heard him say that, and I kind of did a double take. Like, did he really just say that? And Twitter blew up pretty instantly on that. That was probably top 5 moment of the season.
That was classic Stan Van. That's why I love that guy.
He was great. He was because my he doesn't know it, but my radio mentor in all this is Dan Levitard. And Stan Van Gundy used to do a weekly show with him before he was hired by Detroit, and he was phenomenal on that show. He was really, really, really good at analyzing basketball. So shouts to Dan Levitard.
Yeah, Stan's one of the greatest, at least one of the top 5 like soundbite guys in the business right now.
Oh, yeah.
And he drinks Pepsi like that. That Pepsi that was incredible.
Oh man.
All right, so who's up next? Justin, did you just go?
No, Gary went, so
I'm up.
All right, Jacob, you're up. I'm losing track of this. I'm an English major and I suck at math. So drafting for the Charlotte Hornets is Jacob. What do you got?
I will say that I absolutely love Willie Cauley-Stein's game. It would be surprising to see him fall this far, but I could understand it. Detroit doesn't need a big man. Charlotte doesn't. Charlotte, looking at their depth chart on ESPN, they currently have 11 forwards from small forward to center. So I think the last thing that they're going to do is draft a big man. They need help on the wing. I think it makes the most sense that they would take Devin Booker here. They have Gerald Henderson at shooting guard. He's on a big contract, but I do believe this is his last year. I think Booker will be a much cheaper option going forward. He struggled some during the tournament, but he's a lights-out shooter. He's only 18, so there's a lot of room for him to grow. He's 6'6" as a shooting guard. That's pretty great size. He could develop even into a bit of a small forward, but with Charlotte kind of lacking some outside shooting, especially with Kid Gilchrist's ugly jump shot, I think Booker could come in and be a really big contributor for them.
And to fill the gap left behind by 17%. Lance, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have high expectations to live up to if he just has to replace Lance.
That was phenomenal. Oh, Justin, your face was great. I think you should replace like that. Your Abby right now on Twitter is you picking your nose on a podcast, but your look when we mentioned Sean Livingston should replace it. Lance Stevenson.
It would still be a better Abby than the new Clippers logo.
All right, so
By the way, I love Devin Booker. I love the Devin Booker pick for Charlotte. I think Charlotte's his ceiling for getting picked. I think Utah's his floor.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that too. My mock draft, I have him going 11 to Indiana.
But
yeah.
Which would be great for them.
Yeah, I had him going. I believe I had him at the Suns at 13, but the way the draft kind of played out with this, And I could see, especially after their trade, Charlotte's probably going to be looking for a wing player.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see them grabbing Booker here.
They can't walk out of that lottery pick without a shooter. Like, that's just how I feel. Like, you can't come out without a shooter. Like, I love Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and he shot better last year than he did the year before, and he fixed his jumper quite a bit. But he doesn't shoot threes. He doesn't even take them. Rightfully so. He's smart, and they just need someone who can stretch the floor because Kemba just gets like swarmed.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going next to Gary with the next pick, right, Gary?
No, it's Justin.
Really? Oh, that's right.
Who is it,
I'm old.
Miami?
I take it back. Yep, yeah. Justin, you are picking from Miami, who, unlike, I don't know if James is watching right now, but Snotty Drippin is a huge Celtics fan, and they made the playoffs. The Miami Heat squeaked out of the playoffs and got to that 10 spot. And, I think find themselves in a pretty decent, considering where they could have been.
Yeah, they could have missed the playoffs and not had their pick.
Right. So,
which I was rooting for. I was rooting
Why?
for. I really was.
Were you rooting for them, as just Miami, or as, what else we might else find out about them eventually?
I was rooting against them just simply because I thought it would be hilarious if they didn't make the playoffs and then lost their lottery pick to a team like Philadelphia. It's like, you lose LeBron, did you lose your lottery pick? Like, it's like, way to get screwed, man.
Ouch.
Ouch.
All right, so Justin, who do you got going to Miami?
I have a train going by right now, so if you hear that, I apologize. That's tough. There's guys on the board who I want to pick for them, but I think I'm going to go with Kelly Oubre.
Okay.
I think they need another wing player. And he's a hybrid wing. He can score. He didn't always produce, but he has the athleticism and the scoring ability and the rebounding to make a difference on the wing if they were to somehow get rid of Luol Deng and Dwayne Wade's decline, and if Wade tries to
Cleveland.
Yeah, if Wade runs to LeBron at the airport terminal and just tries to hug him and never let him go, So I like Oubre a lot. I have him 10th on my board, so I do like him. So he's going right where I have him. It's just Miami's in a weird spot because there's so many great players prospect-wise that are going to go before them, and they're going to get left in that little jumble of guys who are really good but not great.
Yeah.
I think the other problem Miami's going to have in their spot is that a lot of the guys in kind of that on the big boards around number 10 are big guys, and they obviously have Whiteside. Bosch will be back, so there really isn't a need for somebody like a Miles Turner or a Kaminsky or somebody of that nature, even a Willie Cauley-Stein if he were to fall in this draft, like he does in this draft. So Oubre is who I had them taking in my last mock draft. I think that would be a good fit for them. It would kind of, obviously, if Wade left this year, he could step in, but if Ding leaves in the near future, anything like that, I think Oubre would be a great fit for Miami moving forward.
Or if Deng just out and out crashes, right? Like eventually we're going to hit that spot with all the minutes he played in Chicago where they all just pile up, and we started seeing that a little bit this year, but this upcoming year is, I think, where we'll really see that come to be, where holy crap,
that's a lot of minutes.
Holy, we might look at that and say, geez, he's really washed, We'll all just be sitting there like, Luol, dang.
He's 30 and he seems like he's 60.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's why Thibodeau was fired, right? So.
Yeah, and he's, like you said, he's 30, but he's probably played as many minutes as like a 34, 35-year-old, something like that. So, yeah, they're going to hit a point real soon, I would imagine, where he's physically going to be exhausted and just can't do it anymore. I'm
Yeah.
sure his knees are probably in terrible shape from running up and down the court for all those minutes, all those years. So yeah, I think Oubre could be kind of the next generation wing player for them. If both Deng and Wade stay, he could learn under both of them for a year or so, and then kind of take that starting role over.
The main thing, besides just needing another wing, like they need someone athletic. Like Wade's declining athleticism, Deng's declining athleticism, Bosch's declining athleticism. Like the most athletic guy they have is Hassan Whiteside, and I guess what's his name, James Ennis. So yeah, like whoop, you know.
Yeah. I'm not. I won't make that pun. That's way too easy.
Oh my god.
All right, so I didn't make it. I didn't say it. I didn't say anything. Gosh, your guys' mind works in sick ways. All right, we're gonna move on to the Indiana Freudian slip there. Indiana Pacers. Gary, you are selecting for them. Paul George is coming back. Roy Hibbert. There's no way Roy Hibbert gets moved this offseason, right? Like, there's no chance that we see that.
Well, there's no chance that he declines his player option because it's like
that's for sure.
like, what is it, like 16 million?
Yeah, it's closing on 16.
Yeah, like
that's a whole lot of money, man.
Yeah, that's why it was funny that everybody was like talking about Eric Gordon today. It was like, yeah, he wasn't gonna decline that player option, but
yeah, that was funny.
He bought into Alvin Gentry. No, he bought into a whole ton of money is what he bought into.
This is a weird spot for Indiana in this draft because
now Jake, hold 1 second, Gary, but Jacob, you're out there in Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Right. So have you ever did you grow up an Indiana fan? Did you grow up a Laker fan? How'd that work?
I grew up as a Lakers fan. Nobody in my family really is much of a sports fan aside from my uncle, who was a Lakers fan. So I kind of grew up as a Lakers fan and then laughed at all my friends in 2000 when we won the title against the Pacers.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That's what I like to hear. All right, so Gary, who do you have going to the team that Jacob loves to laugh at?
So this is just going to be basically a pick that is, to me, is the best player available, and I don't think he'll fall this far on draft night. I mean, you never know, but they're going to take Willie Cauley-Stein just because I think Indiana needs a guy, like they need another wing or a guy that can play the two. And, I mean, when you look at the guys on the board right now, there's like really nobody that I would take at 11 that can, be like a floor spacer and play the two. So I'm just going to give him the best player available with Willie Cauley-Stein. Because, I mean, like if you put him at the 4, like if, when David West isn't out there, and you have him with Hibbert, like good luck scoring in the paint against those guys. That's like just a tower, like twin towers, just standing in front of the rim. So at least defensively, Vogel would love that. So I'll give him Willie Cauley-Stein at 11. I think that's like a huge drop for him, but these things happen in the draft, so you never know.
Now, well, go ahead, Justin.
Doesn't Willie Cauley-Stein kind of remind you a little bit of Roy Hibbert coming out of Georgetown, though? Where it was like, here's this
way
guy
more athletic, but yeah.
Yeah, he's way more athletic, but it's like, here's a guy who played 3 or 4 years in college. Here's a guy who's pretty much maxed out his potential. Here's a guy who's pretty much just a defender with now rumors of a face-up jumper, which Hibbert has. So it's like this guy with like limited skills, but a guy who you can plug in there and you know exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at them a little bit in the same light. Obviously, Cauley-Stein's ridiculously more athletic, whereas Roy Hibbert looks like he has cement shoes on.
Yeah, Hibbert in college was just like bigger than everybody.
Yeah.
Because I remember they put out North Carolina in the Elite Eight, like his last year there, I think, and like they just had so many problems with him just because of how big he was. Like he wasn't really doing like anything skill wise. He was just so massive.
He was allowed to camp in the paint because they didn't have defensive 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, so he just stood there. I remember that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Indiana, this is an interesting spot because obviously with not having Paul George basically the whole year, they're going to add another young talent. With regards to this pick, I think that if they do land Cauley-Stein, David West is a free agent this year, and I think he wants to come back from what I've read and whatnot. But I mean, if they land Cauley-Stein, I can't imagine that they would want to bring him back because I think that you could probably play Cauley-Stein next to Roy Hibbert. And like you said, I mean, good luck scoring on that. I think Cauley-Stein, obviously defensively, is versatile enough to guard he can guard any position. Offensively, you might have some spacing issues with those two, but I mean, like there is rumors of him having a developing mid-range jumper, so there could be that. But I do think that Indianapolis could be looking for a big man, and like Miami, obviously there's a lot of big men in that area. I think Frank Kaminsky could be another one that they look at, and Trey Lyles as well, especially with West coming off the books this year. They'll have a hole at power forward that I doubt they want to fill with Luis Scola.
Yeah, well, I thought, I'm not 100% sure on this, but doesn't West have a player option this year? I thought it was either a player or a team option. I can't remember.
I do not recall. I know
Player.
Is it okay? So maybe obviously he probably won't be gone then.
I mean, you never know. Like he could, but like even then, like I mean, he has a good mid-range jumper. So like even if Hibbert gets in like foul trouble or something, you just put Cauley-Stein right there, and just fills his role. So.
And there's nothing bad with having three very good rotational big men.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one's ever said we have too many rotational big men.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty growing, I guess, feeling in Indiana and Indianapolis recently that, I mean, Roy Hibbert and the Pacers aren't really thrilled with one another. I mean, there's rumors that he might not pick up his player option. I would be stunned to see him turn down $15.5 million because nobody's paying him near that. But if it is the case where this could be his last year there, I mean, they may even trade him at mid-season if they can find somebody to take that. But nonetheless, if this is his last season there, then Willie Cauley-Stein's your center of the future, and I think Indiana would be happy with that.
I think Cauley-Stein has a much higher ceiling moving forward than whatever Hibbert might be able to put together. I think we've reached Hibbert's ceiling, and I think you could even make the argument that we've not only reached it, but we're on the downtick as as that verticality rule continues to get rethought.
Yeah, he's the guy. It's basically the Hibbert rule.
Right. So that's something to keep in mind. So we're going to move on to what is it? Utah's picking next, right? Yep, yeah. Utah, probably the most exciting young team in the league. I don't think that's a stretch to say.
Yeah, they went 19-9 after the All-Star break or something like that. Maybe 19-10.
Yeah.
They by far were the number one defensive team in just defensive efficiency after the break, a.k.a. ever since they let Rudy Gobert get actual playing time above 15 minutes a night.
Right. Yeah. And Justin, on a scale of 1 to 10, how sad are you that you don't have Rudy Gobert?
Pretty sad because, as weird as it sounds, like just even having, like we said, 3 rotational big men who just know what they're doing. I mean, if the Clippers had him instead of Reggie Bullock, because you can lose DeAndre Jordan and be like, it's okay, we still got Rudy Gobert. Like, he'll clean it up. So like, yeah, I don't even want to see. Now I'm getting mad again. Now I'm getting mad because the Clippers hate international guys. Like the Clippers, 10 years ago picked Yaroslav Korolev, and ever since then it's like, nope, we're not picking international guys. It's like Jesus, right. Man.
So picking Jacob, you're selecting for Utah. Who do you have going there?
Well, we've been talking about having multiple rotation big men. Just looking at Utah's roster, I guess they could they could possibly use a shooting guard. They have Exum and Burke playing in the backcourt right now, but I think there really isn't a shooting guard there. They may look at Devin Booker or Stanley Johnson if they fall, but I believe I had this in my last mock draft. I would have them taking Miles Turner. They have a history of taking big men, kind of stockpiling on them. They just traded away Cantor, so obviously there could be a hole there. Turner is a little bit of a project. Coming in, he wouldn't have as much pressure on him. He wouldn't start. He'd play backup behind Gobert. But I think this would be a good fit for him. And like we said, it would give Utah multiple rotation, 3 rotation big men down the road. And I mean, Turner has a pretty decent ceiling. He has a jumper that is pretty consistent. He's only 19. He's 7 foot tall, so I think he could develop into something. And I mean, Utah has a history of developing big men pretty nicely, so I think this would be a good pick for them.
Well, they'll have Alec Burks coming back too, like as far as like their guard and wing rotation. So that's a key addition too. Just because I mean he was playing really well last year before he went down. I was kind of bummed actually when he went down, and I'm in no way, shape, or form like a Utah supporter. I actually hate them, but I like. Well, that's the team I always go see play because they're the closest franchise to my hometown. So their fans hate the Lakers so much.
They really do. They really do.
I love their young core, and I gotta say this about Miles Turner. Like the last 2 big boards I did, I always wrote. I had Okafor here and I had Turner like right there, with like right just underneath them. I love Turner's two-way ability. I hate the fact he played at Texas because he played for Rick Barnes, who's clueless.
Yeah.
Like Rick Barnes is so stupid that you could put a ball in the middle of the court and Rick Barnes would think it was an orange. Like he's just stupid, man. I think Turner's ability to play defense and his face-up jumper are going to shock some people. Like, this is a guy who could be a two-way big. And I think he could play with Favors because he can shoot and he can play defense in the middle. I think he could play with Gobert just because he has the face-up jumper. Like, there's things you can do with him. He's versatile. That's the thing. That's the main thing with him. He can play the 4 or the 5.
Yeah.
Now, the big issue with him is when you see him run, he looks like he has the hips of a grandmother. Because he drags his legs, but apparently he's actually running better now, which makes me wonder: did he have hip issues in college, or
you learned to run coming out of college?
No. He was when you watched him in college when he ran, it was weird.
He did have a little bit of a weird trot to him.
They just had to let him run like Forrest Gump, man.
Take off them braces. All right, so pick. So we have Justin. Did you just pick, or Jacob? You just picked for Utah.
Picked.
So Justin, we have you selecting for the Phoenix Suns.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the guy that I've been saying forever is Channing Frye reincarnated. I'm gonna go with Frank Kaminsky. I think he fits in Phoenix. He gives them the stretch 4 they need. He can play with Len. He can play with those guys. Defense is an issue, but if Len keeps progressing the way he is, you can have him as the backline protector and just have Kaminsky be passable.
No, I think Len and Kaminsky fit really well together.
Yeah. It's just like Kaminsky's individual defense isn't anything special, so you have to kind of worry about him.
Yeah, he's just gonna have to learn to be a good team defender, positional guy.
And we're gonna find out about CSI Arizona's new lead detective Frank Kaminsky. That's gonna be great on CBS. He has a perfect CBS detective name. I'm sorry.
Next pick. Put the next pick.
Yeah, just 14.
All right. And somehow the Oklahoma City are rounding out the lottery. The Oklahoma City Thunder are rounding out the lottery. Gary, you are up.
So I don't typically buy into the reported draft promises, which Oklahoma City's been rumored to promise this guy, but I'll actually go with it because to me it makes decent sense. And I'm gonna give them Cameron Payne at number 14. I honestly I don't believe that they've actually promised him that, just because like to me it could be smoke, but like Payne's like his draft stock has been climbing. He's a big point guard. He's pretty good on defense. He can drive the lane, get inside, finish, and like physically he's really enticing. He's got to round out and polish his game a little bit, especially offensively. But Oklahoma City doesn't have like any needs to me. Like the reason they're in the lottery is because they were so banged up. So this is just another guy they can throw in their rotation.
It just seems weird that Oklahoma City would actually promise somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm Oklahoma City here, I wouldn't make any promises. You can basically just take whoever the best player available is. If somebody slips in the draft, really anybody you could take here, it's pretty much going to be kind of a depth signing or a depth draft. I doubt there's anybody that they're going to get at 14 that's going to start for them. But I'd be surprised if they made anybody a promise, because if I'm Oklahoma City, I just sit back and I have my big board already, and whoever the best player left on that big board is, that's who I take, and I'm happy that I got a young talent, and we go back next year and go to the NBA Finals probably.
Payne makes some sense, just in the sense of when Russell Westbrook leaves for the Lakers, like you have him already like being groomed. So
I like that.
This is planning ahead, really.
On a serious note, I think he makes sense because he can create. Like they just need guys, because they're not gonna. I doubt they're gonna just say, run the Scott Brooks offense still and just say, here you go, Russ, here you go, KD, just do whatever, just make a play.
And that's something Billy Donovan.
Oh God, that's right.
And that's something that they lacked last year, was really somebody who could create once Westbrook and Durant went down. So yeah, that'd be a big positive for them.
Yeah. All right. So we've finished the lottery, which is always where the focus of each draft is always going to be. That's always going to be the most exciting. So what we're going to do right now, and I hope you guys are ready for this. I'm going to try and stay organized during this. We're just going straight rapid fire. You're going to say a name. I'm going to announce you. You are picking for a team. You're going to say a name. We're going to move on. All right? Are you guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, so picking first is Jacob. Jacob, you're picking for the Atlanta Hawks. How are you doing this?
They will take Sam Decker to replace DeMar Carroll.
Nice. All right, Justin, you are selecting for the Boston Celtics. Where are they going?
Pick the worst player in the draft.
Trey Lyles. I think they go for an offensive, skilled big, just because Kelly Olynyk isn't worth it.
They're replacing Thor. All right, yeah. Gary, you're picking for the Milwaukee Bucks with their awesome new uniforms.
All right, well, since they just traded Ilyasova, I think they could just use another big guy for their rotation. So I'm going to give them Bobby Portis.
Nice. All right. Jacob, you're going for the Houston Dwight Howard.
They said James Harden said he wanted somebody in the backcourt to help him. I will give them Jerian Grant, who obviously offensively would be a big improvement over Patrick Beverly.
Okay. All right. At 19, we have Justin going.
For Washington, right?
Yep. Yeah. Washington.
Okay. I want to give them Justin Anderson because I think he fits, but I'm going to actually give them Montrezl Harrell because I think they need another big man to play who's actually give them energy and boards and defense.
Okay. Gary, Toronto.
All right, Toronto. Toronto's a weird team to draft for.
They're Canadian. Who cares?
Take someone that's 2 years away from being 2 years away.
Yeah. All right. So just because I think he's, in my opinion, the best player on the board right now, I'm going to give him Kevin Looney.
Nice. I like that pick because he's from UCLA. 21. 21. Jacob, where's he going?
Dallas, I think they could be losing Monte Ellis. They will be losing Rajon Rondo. I think that they take Tyus Jones as the point guard.
I just heard somebody out there not happy with that pick.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go for the next pick.
Justin, you are drafting for Chicago. I can see why you said down.
Yeah, because after Tyus Jones, point guard's kind of screw it. I'm gonna go cry. Rashad Vaughn. I think they need more shooting.
Rashad Vaughn for 21. I've never heard of that name in my life. This is why I'm not picking right now.
Like, yeah, this is why you're not picking if you haven't heard of Rashad.
This right here, like.
He's pretty heavily linked to the Lakers at 27.
All right, so picking for number 23, Gary, you're up for Portland.
All right. That's actually who I wanted to, but.
Sorry.
Okay, so I am going to give them torn between two guys. I'm going to give them Justin Anderson. Just go.
I like him a lot.
I do too. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he's like a late teen pick. So.
Agreed.
All right, picking for the Cleveland second tiers.
That's rude.
Jacob.
That's your best pun of the night.
The Cleveland LeBrons, come on.
The Cleveland LeBrons will. Everybody that played in the finals is a free agent for them. It feels like so. Shumpert and J.R. Smith both are free agents. I don't know that they'll bring them both back. I think that they will take R.J. Hunter to replace one of them.
Okay. Picking for number 25 is Justin.
For Memphis, I was going to go Justin Anderson because I think he fits perfectly for them. I'm going to go Rondé Hollis-Jefferson.
Ooh.
Really?
Right.
I think his defense will get him in the lineup, and I think he's just going to be he's going to be the guy who replaces Tony Allen.
Could you imagine him and Tony Allen on the floor together, like defensively?
With Mike Conley and Marc Gasol? Yeah.
I'd seriously just go hand the ball to the ref and say, we're going to play defense now.
Just dump it into the post against who's ever being guarded by Zach Randolph.
Honestly, like that becomes like one of the greatest defensive teams of all time.
Yeah.
And for how great they'd be offensively together,
yeah.
Tony Allen or Rondé Hollis-Jefferson would be terrible.
Yeah.
Take the under anytime Memphis is playing.
I just think he works. I like him. I just like him so much.
All right, picking for number 26, Gary, you are selecting for the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay, torn between two guys here. I'm going to leave one guy on the board just because I want him to go to the Lakers. But I'm going to take for the Spurs Anthony Brown.
Anthony Brown, another name I have never heard before. Jacob, no pressure, but you're selecting for the Lakers.
I'm going to assume the guy that Gary wanted to leave on the board probably makes the most sense for the Lakers. I will take Delon Wright.
Nice.
There we
He's
go.
the point guard. He's the point guard, right?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, I keep up with this stuff, kind of. Selecting for the Boston Celtics, Justin. Take, I don't know, the draft equivalent of poop.
Okay, so I gave them Trey Lyles last time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm still going to give them another big, but it's a guy who can play on the wing, too. I'm going to give him Christian Wood.
Okay.
I think he can do really well for them.
And, they can rename him Christian Parquet Floor instead of Wood.
Stop.
That was the worst one of the night. Like, that was literally the worst one of the night.
That was so forced.
No.
I'm in rapid fire. Like my puns are gonna get terrible because I'm just going. All right, Gary, you got.
Oh, my.
You have the Brooklyn about to be sold.
Brooklyn about to be sold. All right. Gosh, they're such a mess.
That's an understatement right there.
All right, I'm gonna give him the best player probably on my board right now. I'm gonna give him Jarrell Martin.
Okay, and last but not least, our NBA champions will select Jacob.
I'd be surprised if they didn't sell this pick to try to save some money because they're gonna have to pay Draymond Green a lot of money this summer. If they do keep it, they'll probably do a draft and stash, I would think, so they don't have to pay anybody. I will give them, I don't even know how to say it, Guillermo Hernan Gomez. However you say that.
Hernan Gomez.
Yes, Hernan Gomez.
The only reason I know that guy. The only reason I know that guy's name is
using the one.
Exactly. Yeah, like that's two Spanish names in one guy. Like you're basically picking two dudes. All right. Before we get going here,
I've said for the last month, by the way, that Golden State's going to trade David Lee to the Sixers, and I think they throw that pick to them, like just as please just take him.
I think they're going to trade that pick with David Lee to just wherever they go.
It makes too much sense.
Yeah.
They got to avoid the luxury tax.
So I had a blast doing this, and I'd be remiss if I did not, or if I ignored tonight's news. We have a great time here, and we're really blessed to live the lives we do. Charlotte, or Charleston, they went through some of the ugliest news that I think you can find, where you had a bunch of people shot in a church. I just want to, I want to send thoughts and prayers along to those guys. Just man, I mean, I can't think of a place that you would consider yourself, safer. So I want to make sure, to let those guys all out there know, for all the, to the few of you watching right now, send send positive thoughts their way, because you have a whole bunch of people whose lives changed, in a matter of milliseconds. And again, thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. This was by far the most live viewers that we've gotten for any kind of podcast.
Was
thank
it 4?
you. What's that? We had two. We had two people.
Okay.
one just signed off. Apparently they no. No, I want to thank Justin. I want to thank Jacob. Jacob, this was your first podcast. I hope my puns didn't steer you completely away from here.
I'll just say it's not a coincidence. You had your most viewers ever on my first appearance.
It had nothing to do with the SEO title, as an editor would know. And Gary, thank you for braving the geese one more time to join us tonight.
You bet. Oh, and if anybody wonders why I was just laughing a second ago, it wasn't during what you were talking about. It was because Harrison's last tweet from the Lakers Outsiders account just says, "Going too fast. Just watch the damn podcast."
Yeah, that's Harrison's equivalent of Woj tweeting out "Good Lord," right? Like that's basically what's going on there.
That was the night Woj just gave up.
Yeah,
it's just
Woj and the 5 Filipino kids that he's not paying anything to run his account.
Woj's cell phone bill must just be out of control.
No, he has unlimited data. That's for sure.
He's gotta be like Adam Schefter, who has 3 cell phones.
Well,
Yep.
I was listening to the SI Media Now podcast, which I highly recommend, but they did an interview with Adam Schefter. He's on his cell phone, his contact list had over 7,000 people in it.
That's crazy. That's craziness. That's nuts.
I don't even think I've met 7,000 people in my life, and I've been to sporting events. How does that happen?
I have all of Gary Nation, and they account for 2 people. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining. Thank everybody for watching. And again, thoughts and prayers to everybody in Charleston dealing with some of the most horrific news you'll ever find. Talk to you guys later.